Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Bald Explorer's wonderful evening chat show. And here I am in the studio with an interloper. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have a guest. Please, a big round of applause. The lovely guest on my show today is my very own sister, Corinne, all the way from Devon, from down there where they talk like that, isn't that right?
That's right, my lover.
That's right, see, she's Devonshire pure through and through.
I don't think they'd accept that.
Oh. What a shame. So it's lovely to have Corinne on board. Corinne is up here because we're dealing with probate and parents and scattering of ashes and all that kind of nonsense, but we're letting our hair down tonight. I've let mine down many, many years ago, and you're still hanging on to yours, which is fantastic.
Albeit going grey, but yeah.
So, sorry about the late start. A slight hiccup this end, but it's fine. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show. We're going to be talking about nursing. We're going to be talking about walking on very long pilgrimage, and also places abroad that I've never been to on the other side of the world, but my well-travelled sister, Corinne, has. So that's all in the show. But first, let's see if there's anybody actually out there enjoying the show. Do give her a big wave and say hello. Yes, indeed, there you are. So we've got Newport, we've got Mark, we've got Kevin, we've got Paul, we've got Rob, we've got Elise, we've got Jane, there's Malcolm. It's fantastic. We've almost got a full house. So what you can see there, Corinne, just talk amongst yourselves for a second. What you can see there, Corinne, is the feed that's going back to the lovely listeners. So, but on the side, we can see what they're saying. So they're saying hello. Look, hello, Richard and Corinne from Cynthia. That's very kind of you, Cynthia. And Alex is giving a wave, and the emojis are going along the screen, and they love all that. If you're watching on YouTube, by the way, you don't get to see the emojis. I apologise for that. And if you are watching on YouTube, it's only a replay, where it is actually live on the Bald Explorer's Facebook page at 8 o'clock weekdays. So there we go. Anyway, it's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for coming along and giving Corinne a big warm welcome.
Yes, thank you very much.
We can't start a show when we have a guest without something to drink. So, Corinne, we have something in the studio to drink, haven't we? You went out to one of the local supermarkets here and found something. What have you found?
Well, this is I brought this because this is something that we... Is that right? That we used to drink when we were kids. Do you remember?
That's right. Here we are. Turn it up. There we go. Look.
And probably many people remember this, although I don't think it was like this.
It's been rebranded, hasn't it?
It has, hasn't it? Because it was clear for a start, and I seem to remember it was in a blue and white stripy label.
Like the old Tesco's bags used to be.
Like that, yes. But anyway, Our White's Lemonade.
Our White's Lemonade.
Yeah.
I'm a secret lemonade drinker. Our Whites. Our Whites.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and you're right, it used to be clear. And now they've made it, lemon coloured, which I suppose is what it was. You know, they've taken the bleach out. Is that what they've done?
I don't know, but they've made lemonade as it should be.
Traditional and cloudy. Marvellous. Well, let's pour it out. Look. We've got some very posh glasses, because Corinne wasn't going to drink out of any old tumbler. Oh, no. I want some nice posh glasses for me. So I'll let her fiddle and fart with that. I mean, fiddle and pour with that. And while she's doing that, let's have a look. Gordon's alive. Yes, says Rob Moore. Chrissy Watkins is there. Mike Allen. Hello, Mike. How are you? Good to see you. Linda, Jane, Kevin, and the day Sussex died. There's got to be a story to that name. There really has. But it's lovely to see you. And Ed Warren has arrived. Hello, Ed. It's so lovely that you have come. So we have our lemonade. We're going to have a little sample of that. I don't think I've had our White's lemonade, certainly not this one, for a very long time.
Probably since our childhood. I don't think I have.
No, because it's a bit sugary and sweet, these lemonade drinks these days. As you get older, do you not find that your sugar need has gone?
Yeah, definitely. Or you just notice it more, unless they've actually increased the sugar content. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? Well, cheers, Corinne. It's lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And cheers, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are. Was that you slurping? Oh, no, it was me.
I don't know. I can't remember what it was like.
What do you think?
It's quite nice.
It's quite nice.
Quite nice.
I always remember as a kid it was very bubbly and went up your nose. I think maybe as kids you just were a bit like that. Not you, but, you know, the drink. You know what I mean. So that's delicious. I don't know where to put that now, because I don't want it falling on the floor. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, put up there before we started a caption, a very delightful and sexy young nurse. And Corinne is actually a nurse, a very young and sexy and delightful nurse. Is that right?
An older model now.
Are nurses like what you see in the adverts that you see you know, whenever they portray them like in Casualty, they're all sort of young and glamorous and pert, if I'm allowed to say that. Is that what it's like? Is that really what goes on in hospitals?
I think we're a mixed bunch, to be honest. I mean, there are lots of young, gorgeous nurses, and there's also lots of older nurses, because nursing is an extremely varied career. And there's male nurses as well.
Yes, that's true. People often forget that there's male nurses.
Lots and lots of different roles. So I think there's nurses of all kinds, to be honest.
You started at one of the quite famous hospitals, didn't you, when you kicked off? Where was that?
I went up to London and I trained at St Thomas's, and the school, and it's different now because nurses learn in universities. But when I went, we learnt in schools of nursing. So was
that like on the job?
Yes, yeah. It was like a little bit like being an apprentice, I guess. So the School of Nursing was the Nightingale School of Nursing, which had been started by Florence Nightingale.
Oh, I believe we have a picture of good old Florence Nightingale somewhere. Hang on, here we are. Yeah. There she is. And she's quite an austere-looking woman, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. But I mean, I don't think she necessarily really was.
No.
But that is. Perhaps that's more to do with the way that Victorian photography, that was the demand of Victorian photography.
Yes, very true.
She's, I don't necessarily think she was austere. She had one really interesting thing about her was that she had a little owl as a pet.
An owl?
A little owl, yeah,
a
a live one.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a breed called little owl. So
I see. It wasn't just that it was small. It's a little owl. That's a breed. Oh, okay.
And she used to keep it in her pocket.
Well, that's very.
So she couldn't have been totally austere, because she was
No. But can you imagine going down a surgical ward with people with wounds exposed and having a little owl with all of whatever diseases an owl would have had?
Perhaps she didn't have it perhaps she had it as a child, and maybe not when she was a nurse. But she didn't actually nurse for very long. She did the Crimean War. And she started the School of Nursing, but I think that she didn't really nurse for years and years and years. Another really interesting thing about her, which I think she got it totally sorted, when she came home after starting the School of Nursing and doing her contribution to nursing, she took to her bed.
Yes, didn't she? She was in her bed for like years. And writing so many letters and things.
She was an expert. She was a statistical expert.
Right.
And she knew a lot about sewers, so she helped.
I'm sorry. she knew a lot about sewers.
I know, it's bizarre.
As you do.
Well, so she helped.
I'm just nipping down into the sewer to, something to do, isn't it, in my evenings.
So she helped the people who were in charge of India to sort out the sewers.
Oh,
in India, and people would come and consult her from government, and she was very well connected because she's from an upper class family, and then after doing the Crimean War she was extremely well connected, so she had all these diplomats and politicians and people in high up places who were sort of movers and shakers come and visit her in her office, which was her bed.
It is almost unbelievable, isn't it, that they would come in and there she is, sort of sitting up in her bed.
I think she'd done her bit and she was just going to relax.
Well, why not? Absolutely. Now, when you were there, you were telling me that we've got a picture here, another very austere-looking woman, but there's something about this picture. This has come from a 1957 magazine, ladies and gentlemen, but there's something about this particular picture. Which you had to, or the matrons had to wear, or you had to wear?
I never wore that because I never got that high up at St Thomas's, but the sisters and the matrons wore those hats.
They look like a ruff. You know those sort of Elizabethan ruffs that you'd have round your neck? they would be all round here, you know, and like in Blackadder.
Yes, I know what you mean.
And they look like they've just been shoved up on the top of your head. It's the most peculiar thing.
Yes. Well, and then there was a whole... When I was when you started as a student, you had your uniform, which was basically the same design. I think it was like little fine stripes. But you... as you went up your years, your status improved with the type of hat and belt that you wore. So we wore those white plain hats to begin with, but when we became third-year students, we had these little lacy, funny little sort of...
They're like little bonnets, are they?
Yeah, little...
And the idea is what? To stop your hair from
no
dangling
idea.
over?
These were little, like little cylinders with a sort of little frill at the top. I mean, it wasn't... You didn't put your hair in it.
No,
it wasn't going to...
No.
It didn't have any real practical purpose, but it was the thing that you'd become... We had a blue belt and this frilly hat, so we'd become a blue belt frilly. And that was like, you know, when you were a first-year student, you were longing for the day that you became a blue belt frilly.
I want to be a blue belt frilly. I want to be one. I must.
The whole thing is ridiculous because now, not only is it not in schools of nursing,
no,
the uniform is just, you know, plain and ubiquitous, isn't it? Everybody wears these. And nobody wears a hat.
Oh, they don't wear hats at all?
They don't wear hats at all. No.
Only surgeons, I suppose.
Yes.
In the because you're cutting people open. Yeah. Oh, that... How bizarre. Because you see, if we did a quick search for different nurses before we started, and you see some of them, these wings, or, you know, this great... And some of them look like habits that nuns came from. Is that the origin?
Well, I think that, partly. I think because Florence Nightingale went over to Germany to a convent to learn the trade of nursing.
Oh, right.
So it does come... It comes from that religious background, so that's what the uniform is taken from, I presume.
Kevin Hall says, huge respect to doctors and nurses. My late parents were treated so well in St Richard's in Chichester. My first son was born in Chichester at St Richard's. And what have we got here? We had Osborne's, Tristan's, Kirk's and Golden Circle in Brisbane. I believe Flo Nightingale was prone to swig of gingy beer on the sly.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Gosh.
I think it must have been tough being out there in the Crimean War. So, you know.
Mary Seacole, is that a name that
yes.
Claire Leach has suggested? Who was Mary Seacole?
Well, Mary Seacole was another absolutely fabulous woman. And she was part Jamaican and part Scottish. And she also went out to the Crimean War. But she didn't, and she was fabulous. She nursed people as well at the front line, and she had an amazing contribution. But she hasn't had the recognition.
I see.
She hasn't had the recognition that Florence Nightingale. You know, she's
because her class was different. Was she a different class or the same sort of?
She
class?
was a different class, and a different.
Different person, different circumstances.
Yeah, and
I
think that Florence Nightingale was very well connected.
Right.
And whereas I think that Mary Seacole was much more, she was an absolute adventurer. So she just did it for herself. She had a hotel out there apparently, and she would sort of nurse people, bring them off the front line to her hotel. But she had a very different approach. And a different, very adventurous spirit. But she has sort of been mostly forgotten, although there's been recently a big effort to, you know, just to remember her and to acknowledge her contribution.
So there we are. We pray. We're going to say cheers to Mary Seacole. Seacole. There we are. Yes. Cheers, Mary Seacole. You didn't get the recognition, but you get it on our show. Cool. I tell you what, we could do with some nibbles, couldn't we, Corinne? We could do with some. Anybody got any nibbles? Eric, where's Martin? Martin, have you got any nibbles? He's not here, is he? Have you got any nibbles?
I've got cake.
Oh, she's got cake. She's brought cake, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, well, you can't go wrong. If a nurse do you bring cake? Is that how
we have cake Fridays?
Oh, do you? Oh, do you?
Where I work now, every Friday is Cake Friday, and somebody has to provide the cake.
Oh, one of the staff?
Yes.
Obviously not the patients who are coming in, you know, from A&E or whatever.
You're only allowed in if you're bringing cake.
I'm bleeding to death, but I've got some Madeira. Is that all right? Yes, you can come in. What a sister. So what cake has Corinne got in her little handy honky? That's what we want to know.
Well, I did try to get Battenberg, just because that's you know.
Oh, Battenberg.
Remember it? That was
I do remember
we had
Battenberg.
as kids, wasn't it? But I failed in that.
Oh, why?
Well, because
They didn't have any.
They didn't. I got the next best thing because we also endlessly.
Yes.
Remember endlessly?
Endlessly. Oh yes, Mum used to buy these. So are you going to show them up to the camera? Here we go. What are they called?
Oh, they are called.
Oh, French fancies. Is that what they're called? French fancies.
Fondant fancies, or
French fancies. There we go. Look at them. These they were lovely. And as kids, you know, as a little kid, and you sneak in to see. Mum used to say. Do you remember? Mum used to say to us when I would bring friends in, or you would bring friends in.
Feeding the whole street.
Yes, don't feed the street. She would say, don't feed because they'd all come in and they'd have a biscuit, and then another one would have
a biscuit tin, didn't we?
Yeah.
And you have to offer your friends a biscuit. You don't just go and eat them yourself.
She'd be going there. Don't feed the street.
Feeding the whole street.
Don't feed the whole road. It was hilarious. Yeah. So, what colour are you?
Well, I think that my favourite is the yellow.
Oh, I was going to have it. I'll go for a pink. No, I'll go for a pink. Well, you have a yellow and I'll have a pink.
I think they're lemon and you've got strawberry, I guess.
Well, I'm hoping it's strawberry. I'm hoping it's nice. I do seem to remember that the little blob of cream in the front there is actually quite ghastly.
I remember
because it's not fresh, not real, is it?
No, and it sets the roof of your mouth. It makes it sort of feel a bit... Do you know what I mean? A bit soft.
On edge.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, anyway, we've got fondant fancies. What have you got? Do let us know if you're having some nibbles whilst you watch the Vobes One-Eyed Kenobi show with the lovely two-eyed Nursey Worsey from Devon. So, cheers.
What do you think?
Well, much nicer than I was expecting. I was expecting that cream to be far worse.
Yes, but this is Miss... Oh, am I allowed to say the brand?
Yeah, why not? It's not television. Who cares? Mr. Kipling.
This is Mr. Kipling, so maybe this is a superior...
Oh, yes, he makes exceedingly good cakes. And by the way, Mr. Kipling, if you fancy sponsoring the show...
You have had a mention.
You have already had a mention, so send us some more fondant fancies, and French fancies even, and it will be absolutely marvellous. No, that's better than I thought it was. They are bite-sized, though. Oh, well... For a greedy pig like me.
They probably seemed big when we were kids, do you think? Maybe.
But having said that, I would get through at least 3. But they're too sweet. I couldn't eat many of those.
No. But this is, you know...
Many boxes.
Again, this is probably something I haven't eaten since being a kid.
No. Well, but fair enough. Now, cake. Is cake a good thing to take when you're on a long walk?
Probably not.
For the energy, the sugar, that sort of thing?
Yes, but there's probably better things because they're squishy, aren't they? They don't. I see what you mean. Well,
right, but I was thinking like an energy bar or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think energy bars. But when I did the walking on the Camino,
which is what we're going to be talking about right now,
the energy came from the wine. Wine seemed to be the answer to most problems on the Camino.
Oh, right.
I have to say.
Okay. So, Corinne, some time ago, fed up with just being, you know, it wasn't enough to be on her feet 12 hours a day as a nurse. 12 hours a day looking after disgruntled people who would make demands on you left, right and centre. Decided, I'm going to get away from this, but I'm not going to put my feet up. I'm going to go on how many hundreds of miles is it?
800 kilometres. 576 miles.
576 something whatever, over 500 miles.
Lots.
On the Camino de Santiago, which is this very famous pilgrimage across from the Pyrenees, is it?
It starts in the French Pyrenees. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, we've got a map here. Look, we've got a map, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we're prepared. We are prepared. The producer... yeah,
that's you.
Yeah, it might be. Here we go. Have a look at this. This is the map. So on your screen. So whereabouts did you start roughly?
So it's in a little town in the French Pyrenees called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port.
And that's not actually on this map,
but it's
not on that map, top right, is it?
Well,
sort of.
Yes, more or
somewhere
less. Yes, more or less where that first line is. I think somewhere along there at the top.
And then it goes right over down to the left-hand side. You'll see San Diego de Compostela. Is that what it is?
Yes.
And Is that all on a ridge? Is it all a high ridge, or is it up and down over dale and mountains?
It's up and down. I mean, it's mountainous and you are high up, but you're kind of not necessarily aware that it's high up because it is still up and down.
Through valleys and things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And towns and villages and cities and mountain ranges and big, tiny little winding paths up mountains, and then flat. Just some of it is just endlessly flat for miles and miles and miles, and then vineyards and everything, all sorts of different landscapes. Really,
we have a picture which we borrowed from somewhere. If it's your picture, then I apologise. That might actually be from Wikipedia for all I know. But anyway, so this is sort of representative of some of the landscape, but not by means all, because it changed so much, you told me.
It changed a lot. It changed a real lot. So you're walking through 3 different regions of Spain. The first region that you're walking through is basically wine growing. So it's a little bit like that. But on those hills would just be vineyards. You know, miles and miles and miles of vineyards. So that would be the first bit. The second bit is this very, very barren, incredibly barren landscape. With the thing about walking on the Camino is that although it's an enormous walk, you walk for about 5 kilometres and then you get to a little town or a hamlet, and there's a bar.
Oh right,
and there's a bar.
A bar.
So you never.
That can't be bad.
Yes.
So you're staggering. Is that you're saying you're staggering from bar to bar?
Some of it's a bit like a pub crawl, you know.
Right.
There was but the middle bit, there aren't bars. You walk for, there's just this very bleak, barren, endless landscape, which is stunningly beautiful. But a lot of people find it incredibly challenging because it's just the same.
Right.
So it's
endless.
So it seems
like
a bit
going
monotonous.
through a desert.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And I guess depending on what time of year you go, because people do this in huge numbers, don't they?
Yes.
I mean, they don't all set off at the same day and go. There's just a continual flow of people.
It's a continuous walk with people on it. Yeah.
But depending on when you start and when you finish, I guess you can be going through different seasons.
Yes. So I went in September. Which was oh no, sorry, I didn't do that. I went in October.
Rewind.
Second week in October or something, and it finished in November. And it was still warm in November. But people do it throughout the winter when it's extremely cold, because it's very high up.
Yes, yeah.
And snowy, and so possibly some of it's quite hard going, quite dangerous. And then the other extreme is in the summer, when it's scorching hot and there's masses of people, and I really didn't want to do it then.
Has anybody done the Camino de Santiago? Let's have a look. I'm just having a quick gander. So Paul is asking, how long did it take you to walk the 500 miles odd?
Well, I took 6 weeks to do it. But we didn't necessarily. I walked most days. I had a couple of days in some of the cities where I had a day's rest, but most of that was walking.
And did you get corns and
I was really
and blisters? Because you can imagine that people would, after a few days, get a little bit of.
Oh, people suffer terribly, absolutely terribly. But I was extremely lucky, and I didn't get blisters once. But I really believe that was down to 2 things. Number one, I had a good pair of walking boots, but number 2, I'm a nurse, so I'm so used to walking. When at work you hardly sit down.
Right.
So I think that was good prep.
Well, there you are. So if you're thinking of a long distance walk and you haven't tried anything, then maybe the Camino. What was? It's a religious thing as well, isn't it? Were you there? What was the reason you went there? Was it a sabbatical for you, a challenge, or were you going with mates? What was the sort of thing that got you there?
Well, I think that it started as a religious thing, and there are people that are doing it as a religious thing, but they are fairly few and far between. And it just felt like there was lots of different Caminos going on. So there's people who are doing they're walking like 50 50k a day. They're marching through it, and they're doing it for fitness. So
Right.
there's those people.
Okay.
And then there's people who are obviously there's the people who are religious, and then there's people who are like the party Camino, and it's like wine, and it's incredibly sociable thing to do, because I mean, people generally go on their own. I went on my own, but you just meet people all the time, and as you sort of like walk through these different places, and you walk with people, and you say goodbye to people, and then you walk on at a different pace and they walk on a different, you meet up with people again. So by the end it's like you've got your own mobile community and you all know each other really well, so it is like one massive party, particularly by the end.
And presumably people are coming from all over the world to do this.
There were people from everywhere, yeah.
So if you wanted to, it's not like you're just going to see a bunch of British walkers going along
in fact
sedately.
There were very few people from Britain.
Oh really?
Very few people. There were lots of people from different European countries, quite a few Americans, quite a few Canadians, lots of people from South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, just about everywhere, but not very many.
Not many Brits. So having done it once, would you do it again?
Oh, definitely.
Would you?
Yeah.
Right.
And the reason I did it was I think that most people are doing it because they just want to cut themselves a bit of space, reflect on where they are in their life, without like thinking about it in a sort of very conscious way, but just making some time out for yourself and seeing different things and talking to people. It gives you a bit of time to reflect on life, so that's why I did it. If I did it again, there'd be different things, like for example, there's an absolutely rich history and heritage, beautiful, it's absolutely beautiful. So I think if I did it again, I'd concentrate on different things. I'd want to understand more about the history, the heritage, because I think you kind of, at the beginning of it, you're very conscious. Where are we now? Or we're walking through so-and-so. And at the end of it, you're just like, yeah, I'm in Spain.
And you've got a guidebook helping you to go. And is it possible to get lost on the route? I mean,
I got lost twice, but
yes.
but not badly lost.
Oh, right.
Not badly lost. And the main thing is that, the really thing that's so cool is that you are following these yellow arrows. The path, there's the yellow arrows.
What, painted on?
Painted on everywhere, yeah.
Right.
So it's hard to get lost.
So if the arrows stop, you'll know you've somehow wandered off the path.
You're chatting to people and you're, laughing and joking and everything, and after a while I think, oh, I haven't seen an arrow. Must be lost.
And is it an expensive thing to do? I mean, obviously you're taking time off work, several months by the sounds of it, or several weeks anyway, depending on whether you want to do all of it or some of it. And thanks for the emojis, by the way. They're great. I just let you know. But is it expensive to stay? Because where do you stay?
Well, it's really set up for the Camino. So you walk through places, little villages or towns, that if there wasn't the Camino, these people would have no livelihood.
Right.
So everything is set up to
service these travellers.
Yeah, exactly. So there's bars and restaurants, and you stay in little hostels. Or you can stay in hotels. You can spend as much or as little as you like.
Oh, right.
So for the entire 6 weeks, it was, for me, including the flights, about £1,000.
Wow.
I know.
Amazing.
I know.
And didn't you met a father and son who were walking a donkey?
Yeah, they had 2 donkeys. It was
2 donkeys.
Absolutely fabulous, yeah.
And you befriended them, and you've since gone back to see those their family.
Yeah.
And the donkeys,
yes,
presumably.
Yeah.
Is he the guy that was doing the tattoo stuff? And you went...
It was father and son, and the young guy was like Oscar's age, my youngest son, and they were so sweet. And he's a tattoo artist. So as I say, you walk with people. So I walked with them for about 2.5 days, and we camped with them as well, which was great. And then you say goodbye to people, and then you kind of like see them briefly on the way somewhere, but you all meet up at the end. And at the end of it, he designed a tattoo for me.
Wow.
It was just and it was really touching, and also just fantastic, because it was basically an English rose, and inside the English rose is a cup of tea. So I obviously banged on about tea the whole time.
Oh yes, clearly.
So it was very moving, I think, that he designed this, because he'd been thinking about me, obviously, and which was nice. And I just thought, right, I must have this tattoo done, but who else is going to do it? This is his tattoo, so I'll just have to go to the south of France where he lives so he can do the tattoo.
And you've never had a tattoo in your life up until
and I
then?
wouldn't really have, but because it was like a gift.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Charlie Gunner says that I've been to San Diego de Compostela, but not along the Camino way. Well, maybe it's time to give it a whirl.
Or there's other ways you can get there from. There's the Portuguese way as
right.
well. There's lots of different routes.
I see.
Yeah,
I see. So it's not just one route.
No.
Presumably there are other pilgrimages, yes, I suppose so, but other pilgrims routes like that. In Europe or across the world, I guess.
And in Britain.
And in Britain.
Yeah.
Well, you've got the Pilgrim's Way, of course.
Yeah, there's quite a few pilgrims.
But would they... does that... I mean, I just can't imagine in Britain that they would attract the same sort of crowd,
well, what
international
they don't
crowd.
What they don't have, and I think that this is a real shame, is it's not set up for people to do it cheaply.
Right.
Because you think about, a few bed and breakfasts in this country, or even Airbnb, it's getting quite expensive, isn't it?
I mean, we used to... we still have youth hostels, don't we? But I think a lot of them have disappeared.
Well, I think also they're getting everything's getting very...
expensive?
Well, and luxury, isn't
luxury.
it? So the thing about the hostels, I mean, you rock up to a hostel, you pay for your bed, you're in a bunk with the world and his wife. All these people that you don't know, there's no segregation between the sexes, so it's men and women, and you're there, and overnight there's people snoring and farting, and and the showers are cold, or it's not luxurious,
no.
but it's the most fabulous experience. And also for me as a woman to go on my own, the whole thing, and it's a safe thing for women to do because you meet other people, but it still gives you that feeling of I'm travelling, that excitement. I'm travelling on my own. I'm being brave,
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's maybe a challenge for the old Vobie to go and do that and film the Camino. That would be superb. I'd probably need a team of people to carry all the hard drives and media cards with all the footage, because you'd be doing that for a long time. Right, we better move on because time is ticking past very rapidly. You've tuned into the Bald Explorer's nightly chat show. Just in case if you've just tuned in and thinking, what the hell is this about? But you're enjoying it. I can see the conversation is superb, which is lovely. If you've got any questions for Corinne, then do pung them in there. We'll try and get to them. But before we do that, I could do with a top-up, actually, Corinne.
Oh, yes,
so if that's all right.
It's going down well.
It's going down very well, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you may like the shows. We've got a little bit more to do. But before we get on to that, I want to tell you something quite important. Hang on a minute. Ways that you can become a patron of the Vobes. Yes, why not become a patron and support the Bald Explorer? Yes, this is the bit where I sort of bang on about how if you were to shove your hand in your pocket and pull out a few coins every month, you could help me, the Vobie One-Eyed Kenobi, produce more of the walking videos and of course get more guests on the live show. If you go to baldexplorer.com, I should have had a link so you could follow it, but if you go to baldexplorer.com, you'll see a support icon on the menu. And you can either do a one-off donation, which is fantastic, any amount you like, or, of course, you can support me on a regular basis, which would be superb. And you get, if you support me on a regular basis, even if it's a couple of quid a month, you get the Naked Englishman daily podcast. You've been on the Naked Englishman.
Yeah.
And it's just the sort of background behind the show, behind my life, what goes on with parents and children and what Harriet gets up to. Well, not all of what Harriet gets up to, actually. But that sort of thing. You get a sort of inside take. You get to see the videos, of course, before they go out. And every now and again, I bung in extra goodies and another video here or the theatre show that we did. You get to see that. So it's definitely well worth to support the Vobes. So that's that. So
cheers.
Oh, cheers! Thank you very much. We've this is non-alcoholic, I should add. Cheers! Thank you very much,
Cheers.
Corinne. You're a vegetarian, aren't you?
I have been. I have been since I was 16. So I was thinking about that. That's 37 years.
37 years. Have you ever tried stinging nettles?
I've eaten them.
You've eaten stinging
I have
nettles?
eaten them. I've eaten them as soup, in soup. Stinging nettle soup.
Have you ever had that? So was that cooked?
It was.
Oh,
yes.
I see. So you've not had them raw then?
No.
Oh, can you imagine what it would be like having stinging nettles raw? Well, there is a competition. There is a competition, I think, to see who can eat the most stinging nettles, and I guess you get stung. And I'm sure you'd all like to have a look at it. So thanks to Brit Clip, my mate, good old Dave, from Brit Clip. And if you want to see more crazy things that us Brits get up to, check out on YouTube Brit Clip. And thanks to Dave for letting me play this in. But this is eating and a competition of stinging nettles.
So here we go, we've got a lady upstairs who has consumed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sports. I beg your pardon. This year's remarkable champion.
So there we are. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I just suddenly had a nosebleed. at least there's a nurse in the house. There's a nurse. I've got a nosebleed, so I may have to go a bit like this. It's funny that. Anyway, we were just looking whilst that was going in. 74 feet of stinging nettles. Can anybody beat that, ladies and gentlemen? 74 feet. I can feel the drip coming out of my nose any minute now. Could you see any
some
blood?
ice to put on the back of your neck.
Oh, on the back of my neck?
Yes, that's one of the things that we do for.
Oh, I see.
To stop it.
Somebody's asked there. I forget who it was now. We just looked at it now. What sort of nursing do you do? And that was Claire Leach asked that.
Hello, Claire. Now I work with older people in a very small cottage hospital, and what we do is rehab. That sounds a bit odd. Rehab.
Oh, okay.
But, we get people back to their mobility. We look after their mobility and make sure that they're going to be able to look after themselves when they get discharged home. For a very long time, I worked on an acute surgical ward, which was incredibly busy, looking after lots of things. Ear, nose and throat. So
ear, nose and throat.
People
there we
with
are.
nosebleeds.
I'm not going to touch it because I can feel it building up, but I will have to go and blow it on something, but not for a moment. I'm all right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the sympathy. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I haven't quite keeled over yet. Thank you. Charming, that is.
Yeah.
But you haven't always done that kind of nursing. You've had a whole gamut of experience.
Well, I worked on a surgical ward which changed. So I stayed on the same ward for 17 years, but the nature of the patients around me changed. So we had medical patients, we had surgical patients, we had ear, nose and throats, max fax, which is facial surgery.
Oh. I thought it was makeup.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it is.
That's where they got the name from.
Oh, right,
yeah,
there
max
you go.
fax.
Max fax.
Maxillofacial surgery.
And didn't you've done a stint on A&E, haven't you?
I've worked in A&E, yeah.
What did you think of that?
Well, it's very challenging.
Yes.
It's extremely busy, and you really have to have your wits about you.
Right, yeah. So you wouldn't want to do that again? Is it a young person's game?
I don't think it's necessarily a young person's game, but I think it's a particular type of person because it's so fast paced,
right?
And the pitch is always changing. And so what I've chosen to do now is work with people so that I can have much more of a one-to-one relationship with patients, which I actually really enjoy much better.
And you get more out of it, don't you? If you've got that.
Yeah, for me. But some people like that buzzy sort of adrenaline stuff, don't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And that's why I say there's lots of different types of nursing. Yeah.
Paul Hine is saying he's asking for a subscriber meetup or a walk on the cards, and I think somebody else said, Mr. Vogt, Kevin said, could you arrange a walk for charity? I have said in the Bald Explorer group on Facebook that I want to organise a walk, and of course I appreciate everybody is spread out all over the place, so waiting for the weather, because we seem to have a bit of weather at the moment. I don't know if you've noticed here in the UK, certainly in the south coast, there's a bit of snow going on. Excuse me. Now the drink's repeating. My nose is bleeding out.
Has it stopped?
Has it stopped? Is it
more or less?
It's coagulating right at the entrance to my large cavernous nostrils. No, matron. But I'll be fine, thank you. So the plan is to definitely do one in the spring when it's a bit warmer, so that we can be inclusive. Part of the thing is to try and build up a big enough audience of people who actually want to go walking, but maybe somebody could run a poll. Is that possible? Can somebody run a poll? One of my lovely, faithful Bald Explorer group members. Can you do polls in groups? I think you can. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I'm not an expert in that sort of thing. So before we go, because time is running, we've been on air much longer than I anticipated, but it seems to be going well. Corinne also went to an interesting place that on the other side of the world. She's, instead of just going to normal places like Benidorm or Majorca or Tenerife like everybody else, you took a punt. You've never been there before, and I think inspired by a lodger that you had.
I had an absolutely delightful lodger called Lulu, who had been at Durham University and then was coming to Devon to do some charity work at the Mare and Foal Sanctuary, which is in Newton Abbot, where I live. And she was only with me 4 or 5 months. Anyway, she was absolutely delightful. And I also had another lodger who had also been to university, so they were the same age and got on really well, and it was great for me because I have 3 boys, so it was like having daughters. It was
it's basically you get to a certain age, don't you? And it's like throw anything at me now.
So it's great. But we decided when Lulu went back to China, her visa ran out, and she went back. We decided that what we would do is meet up again in China.
Oh wow!
So that's what
you did. So what is one of the places that you went to?
So we flew into Shanghai.
Here's a picture of Shanghai. Look at that. Looks lovely.
It's beautiful, and those buildings there are I suppose they're the equivalent to the city.
Oh right, up in London.
Yeah. So at night, what you do is you take a boat, a cruise along on the river, and just see all these buildings which are just lit up beautifully. Fabulous.
No, fantastic.
Now,
one of the things that you said about China, you said to me when you said it was the pace was very fast, and if you didn't get out of the way, people just assumed, like in the towns and the streets and things, that people would just flatten you if you didn't walk. It's different.
Well, there was lots of things to get used to about being in China, and whatever I thought China was going to be like before I went there was, absolutely completely wrong.
Right.
But one of the things about it is there are just so many people. There are just people and people everywhere. And what you realise as well, some of the cultural differences. So what we tend to do, I mean, we're probably not really very aware of it, but we tend to sort of be quite, you'll let people walk in front of you. You sort of
we're quite polite, I suppose.
We're quite polite, just how we've been, just our cultural thing, isn't it? So you'll let people go ahead and stuff. If you do that in China, you will not get anywhere.
Oh, I see.
So you just have to go for it, because everybody just goes. Because if you don't, you will literally just be standing still. So, but it's not it's just a different approach. They're not rude. They
Right.
were
It's just-
absolutely delightful people. Not rude at all, but it's just and another thing that was fascinating was the tubes. I mean, you think it's busy in London. When I got back to London, I thought this is like a little country rail now.
Gosh.
Yeah, because you see, you think that you could never possibly get any more people on the tube, and then suddenly about 20 more people get on.
Bloody hell. Brilliant. What are some of the other places that you went to? Because you did a bit of a tour around, didn't you? I guess you go to China, you're not going to stay in one place for a long time.
We were only there for 10 days, but we travelled around, and one of the ways to see the most of it was they have fantastic night trains, so you can go long distances while you're asleep.
Oh,
so
brilliant.
it was great.
Yeah.
So we went to from Shanghai, we went to Suzhou.
Here's a picture of Suzhou.
Suzhou is where Lulu grew up.
Oh, what a beautiful place.
And it's amazing. It's
like a little Venice, isn't it?
It's a Chinese Venice, yes.
Gosh.
Yeah. And these buildings here, they look fairly posh, but some of them are very ancient. And Lulu's grandmother, Lulu can remember being a small child, and her grandmother would come down steps from at the side of the building and wash the washing in the river.
Good God.
Yes,
Good
yeah.
God.
So,
Right.
but the thing about China that's so amazing is it's obviously growing amazingly quickly.
Yes.
So, progress is happening fast everywhere, isn't it? But in China, it's really
Very rapid.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
So they're catching up from almost medieval things to sort of 21st century.
Yeah.
Much faster than we have in the West.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
and I think the thing that's really fascinating, the thing that was really fascinating for me was I had all sort of misconceptions about what it was going to be like, but it's a communist country, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a capitalist country. It's really a capitalist country. They're catching up with getting stuff in a big way. I didn't, admittedly though, I think it's very difficult to see bits of China other than what they want you to see.
Right.
Even going with somebody who was Chinese and a native, I think that it's quite managed. So I didn't see rural China. I didn't see the huge poverty which exists there.
Yes.
What I saw was cities and people who appear to be like us. I mean, well off.
So as time's running out, we'll obviously have to get Corinne back in again because and give her a big thumbs up if you'd like her to come back on the show, because she's clearly got a lot more to say. But one of the other places you went to here, now I would love to have gone and seen this. Where is this? This is the Terracotta Army, isn't it?
This is just outside a city called Xi'an, and it's quite a way out. And this was only discovered relatively recently, these terracotta warriors.
Are they in situ? Is this where they were found?
Yes.
And they've just built the thing around
so
it?
they were buried.
Right.
And they're in farmland, and they were only found because some farmers sort of.
And do we know why they were made?
Yes, they are the army, because there's the tomb of a Chinese king. Well, I don't think they're called kings, warrior king.
Dynasty,
yes.
Chappie or whatever,
and
emperor.
This is the army which is made to guard his tomb.
Oh, in the afterlife. So is there a big thing about digging them up and putting them on display? Or they're not too worried now?
Oh, what do you mean a big thing?
Well, it's a bit sacrilege, sort of digging them up, and whereas
I
he
think
was supposed to guard.
No, I think because it's so of such huge historic interest.
Yes.
That they need to be dug up. I mean, the thing that's absolutely fascinating about them, and I don't know how easy it is to see from the photos, but the army is enormous, and they've only uncovered a tiny fraction of it. So there's masses and masses more to be dug up. That's one thing. But the faces were all modelled on real people. So they're
really?
all individual from a real army.
Gosh,
modelled.
it's like, so that's like having a photo album of the past, isn't it?
Yeah,
Gosh,
yeah. And the details, they're just absolutely fantastic, gorgeous.
So, and finally, then on your trip, of course, you couldn't go to China without going to see
the Great Wall.
The Great Wall, and was it great?
Yeah, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. And we were incredibly lucky because, you know, as I've already said, there's lots of people in China, and where we went, it was slightly out of, it was sort of quite rural. It was a good old while away from Beijing, and it's not that well visited compared to other places.
Oh, okay.
So we were able to walk along those pathways and be the only people, which is rare. So that was really amazing. But you see these little turrets and then the little pathways to it, and it just goes on forever. And it is amazing. And the way the fact that they built it and how they built it is, you know, it's mind-boggling.
Absolutely staggering. I mean, it makes Hadrian's Wall look like a little pile of bricks that a kid's done up in play school.
And it's high. It's so high up. You know, the climb up there.
Amazing.
And one of the things that's really amazing. Sorry to bang on, but
bang away.
In this country, you go into a building to get warm, don't you? To have heat.
Yeah.
But in China, all the buildings have got air conditioning, and when you go outside, it's as if you've walked into an oven. The heat is amazing, but it's a wet heat as well because it's also raining.
Right.
So when we went to the wall, I mean, it was a tremendous climb, and we were like, yeah, you could take the little sort of like ski lifty things, and we were like, no, we'll walk it. That's fine. We'll do the steps. But you're just like such a sweaty wreck by the time you get up, because it's really steep, it's really tall, it's really hot.
and when it was built, you know, no such thing as air conditioning and that sort of thing. They were tough people. Listen, unfortunately we are running out of time. We don't want to sort of overdo our stay, but Corinne, it's been my lovely sister, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a big pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for letting me be part of it.
Before we go, Simon Brown says, hello, Richard and Corinne. Hello, Simon. Why are you so late? Julia has popped in, says, evening all. Evening to you. Gary Bain, stop picking your nose, Richard, or your brains will fall out. They were my brains. They are now gone. So that's it. I'm now doolally. My wife, now, how do you pronounce your wife? Caxia, is it Caxia, something like that, is from China. So
fabulous.
My daughter Rhiannon says, is that Rhiannon? Rhiannon says hello to both of you, and she thinks Corinne is more of an explorer. Yeah, thanks. Okay, right. So you'll get rid of Corinne. That's great. That is. So anyway, thanks for joining us today. Yeah, no, she is. I do the exploring in Great Britain. That's my thing. And Corinne is the special correspondent that is doing the rest of the world, you know. It's not so interesting, I grant you, but someone's got to do it. So we'll have to send Corinne out on a mission with a camera to another part of the world. Where would you like to go if you could go somewhere different?
Well, my next adventure is to go to Nepal, because I want to go to a Buddhist monastery and do some meditation. That's my plan.
Well, there we are. Well, when you've been to your Buddhist monastery, will you come back and tell us all about it?
Yeah,
fantastic. Definitely. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute joy to have Corinne here on the show. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the messages. Oh, the pronunciation is... Oh, no, you've written it so Tyassa, is it? Tyassa? I don't know. Brilliant show, Richard and Corinne. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
You're all stars, and we love you dearly. I've just got to try and my intro. And so, to say goodbye, there will be a show tomorrow. You're going home tomorrow, aren't you?
Yes.
So it'll just be me on my own, I'm afraid. A bit of a come down. But thank you so much for joining us. If you didn't see the whole show, watch the rerun. It'll be up shortly. And if you want to watch it on YouTube, then that's great. So 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, GMT, on the Bald Explorer Facebook page. Corinne, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have another cake.
I will. Thank you.
And we'll see you on the next one. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.